A relic from a dead civilization was found. It activated when the human walked in. The transport shuttle descended through the thin atmosphere of moon designate KX-447, a barren rock orbiting a dying red star in the outer reaches. Dr. Sarah Chen pressed her face against the viewport, watching the gray landscape rush past below. Somewhere down there, buried beneath millions of years of cosmic dust, lay the most significant archaeological discovery in galactic history. Sarah's stomach twisted with nerves. She had only been part of the Galactic Archaeological Council for 3 weeks. Back on Earth, she was a respected xenoarchaeologist, but out here among the stars, she felt like a child attending her first day of school. The other council members had been studying ancient civilizations for centuries. Their species had been traveling between stars when humanity was still learning to make fire. "First time seeing an architect's site?" asked Venric the pilot. He was Viridian, with pale blue skin and 4 arms that moved across the controls with practiced ease. His kind were known throughout the galaxy as patient teachers and gentle scholars. "Yes," Sarah admitted. "I've read every report, watched every recording, but actually being here," she trailed off, unable to find the right words. Venric's translator rendered his laugh as warm and friendly. "Don't worry. Everyone feels small when facing the architects. They built wonders we still cannot understand." Sarah gathered her equipment bag and followed Venric down the ramp. The gravity was lighter than Earth's, making each step feel bouncy and strange. She had to concentrate to walk normally. The vault entrance rose from the ground like a mountain. It wasn't natural stone but something else, a material that seemed to shift colors in the light. Sometimes it looked silver, sometimes deep blue, sometimes like polished bronze. The structure was perfectly smooth, with no visible seams or joints. It simply existed, as if someone had carved it from a single, impossible piece of matter. A dozen researchers from various species worked around the entrance. Sarah recognized some of them from her orientation materials. There was Dr. Ixtal, a Krell whose mechanical augmentations allowed her to interface directly with ancient technology. Beside her stood Harmonizer Quelm, a luminar whose psychic abilities could sometimes sense echoes of long-dead civilizations. "Ah, Dr. Chen," called Professor Malthus, the site director. He was elderly even by Viridian standards, his skin a deeper shade of blue that came with age. "Welcome to our beautiful failure. We have been here for 32 standard years. We have used every technology known to galactic science. We have had specialists from 47 different species attempt to open this door. Nothing works. The vault remains completely dead. No power signatures, no response to any stimuli. It sits here, mocking us with its silence. Flowing patterns that seem to suggest meaning without quite forming actual language. The architects vanished 2 million years ago," Malthus continued, falling into the rhythm of a lecture he had clearly given many times. "We find their structures on dozens of worlds, always perfectly preserved, always impossible to truly understand. They were master builders, but we know almost nothing about them as people. Who were they? What did they believe? Why did they disappear? I have tried every known method of technological interface. Nothing." These brilliant beings had spent decades here, and she was just a newcomer who didn't even understand half the equipment they used. "Come," said Malthus kindly. "Let me show you what we have discovered." The vault was ancient beyond measure, predating every known civilization. The architects had built it with incredible precision. The door was exactly 12 meters high and 8 meters wide. The walls extended deep underground, forming a perfect cube 200 meters on each side. "We know it's a vault because of these markings," Malthus said, pointing to the flowing patterns. "Similar symbols appear on other architect sites. We believe they indicate storage, preservation, protection." Blue brilliance raced across the surface of the door, following pathways invisible until that moment. The pattern Sarah had been studying suddenly blazed with inner fire. Lines of energy spread from her hand, branching and connecting like lightning frozen in stone. A deep hum resonated through the ground. Sarah snatched her hand back, stumbling backward in shock. Every alarm and sensor in the camp began screaming at once. The vault door, silent for 2 million years, began to move. Professor Malthus stood frozen, his 4 arms hanging limp at his sides. Dr. Ixtal's optical sensors were cycling through their entire spectrum. Harmonizer Quelm's crystalline body rang like a bell. Sarah stared at her hand, then at the opening door, then back at her hand. "What," she whispered, "did I just do?" The vault door continued its slow, steady movement, ancient mechanisms operating as smoothly as the day they were built. Sarah stood exactly where she had stumbled backward, afraid to move, afraid to touch anything else. Her hand still tingled where it had contacted the door. The sensation wasn't painful, just strange, like static electricity dancing across her skin. "Nobody move," Professor Malthus commanded, his voice cutting through the confusion. "Dr. Chen, please stay exactly where you are. Everyone else, I want full sensor recordings of everything. This is the most significant moment in the history of this expedition. The power signature is unlike anything in our database," she reported, her synthesized voice remaining calm despite the extraordinary circumstances. "The vault is generating energy from an unknown source. All systems are coming online after 2 million years of dormancy. I was just touching the wall and..." Then there was this tingling sensation, like the door was reading me somehow. And then the light just exploded everywhere. Beyond the threshold lay darkness, but as they watched, lights began activating inside. Soft blue illumination spread through the interior, revealing a vast chamber with walls covered in the same flowing symbols. "Remarkable," breathed Malthus. "Ixtal, what are the internal readings?" "It's creating a habitable environment." Nothing happened. He stepped across and the lights remained steady but showed no other reaction. "Interesting," he muttered. "Dr. Chen, would you be willing to join me?" The moment she crossed the threshold, the entire chamber responded. Additional lights blazed to life, forming pathways deeper into the vault. Holographic displays materialized in the air, showing symbols and images that rotated slowly. "It's responding to her specifically, Doctor," Ixtal confirmed. When Professor Malthus entered alone, the vault remained in basic standby mode. With Dr. Chen present, it's activating additional systems. Sarah walked slowly forward and the holographic displays followed her movement. When she stopped, they stopped. When she moved her hand near one, it brightened and expanded. "This is impossible," said Harmonizer Quelm. "The architects disappeared before any current galactic species achieved sentience. How could their technology recognize a human?" "Nothing invasive, I promise," Ixtal said, her mechanical voice rising with excitement. "The vault is reading specific patterns in her DNA structure, certain genetic markers that..." "Wait. These markers appear in the architect genetic samples we've recovered from other sites." "Are you saying," Venric asked carefully, "that humans are descended from the architects?" "Perhaps the architects seeded certain biological patterns across multiple worlds. Not direct genetic engineering, but something more subtle, encouraging specific evolutionary pathways." "You mean they influenced how life developed on Earth?" "The odds of any one world producing life with these specific genetic markers would be incredibly small. But across enough worlds, across enough time," he gestured around the chamber. "Eventually, someone would inherit the key. The technology is designed to recognize these specific biological patterns. It's been waiting, dormant, for 2 million years, waiting for someone with the right genetic signature to activate it." It showed a star chart, but not one she recognized. The constellations were wrong, the spacing between stars unfamiliar. Is this how the galaxy looked 2 million years ago? The architects were powerful builders. They may have traveled far beyond what we consider known space. They were humanoid in basic shape, bipedal with 2 arms, but their features were different. Elegant and strange, beautiful in an alien way. They look almost human, Venric observed. Or humans look almost like them, Sarah countered. If they really did influence Earth's evolutionary path, maybe we developed similar body structures, because those patterns were already encoded in our world's basic biology. Each room held new wonders, crystalline structures that hummed with stored energy, walls covered in writing or art or something that was both, devices whose purposes remained mysterious. Professor Malthus placed a gentle hand on Sarah's shoulder. Doctor Chen, I think you should know. We're detecting similar activation signals from other architect vaults across the galaxy. The ones we thought were permanently sealed are beginning to respond. News of what happened here is spreading through the Council's communication network. They're opening because humanity has finally reached the stars. The architects left these vaults waiting for whoever inherited their biological patterns. For 2 million years, the galaxy has wondered who the architects were and where they went. Now we know something else. The Galactic Archaeological Council had sent their best minds to the site, and the small moon now hosted researchers from 30 different species, all eager to witness history being made. The holographic displays responded only to Sarah's presence, but she had learned to manipulate them with simple gestures. A wave of her hand would scroll through information. Touching a symbol would expand it into detailed explanations. The system seemed designed for intuitive interaction, as if the architects had anticipated someone might access their records without understanding their language. Professor Malthus rarely left her side, helping her interpret what they were discovering. He had brought translation algorithms that attempted to convert the architect's symbols into concepts the galactic community could understand. It was slow work, but patterns were emerging. This section appears to be biographical, Malthus explained, pointing to a series of flowing symbols that danced in the air before them. Individual architects recording their lives, their thoughts, their dreams. It's incredibly personal, like reading someone's diary from 2 million years ago. The being was tall and graceful, with luminous skin that seemed to glow from within. Their eyes were large and expressive, filled with intelligence and something else, sadness perhaps or resignation. The architect spoke, and the vault systems provided translation in real time. My name is Calith. I am a keeper of knowledge, a planter of seeds. If you are seeing this message, then our greatest hope has been realized. Life has found a way. Calith's image gestured to star charts that materialized around them. We traveled far, my people. Across this galaxy and beyond, we sought worlds where life might flourish. Not to conquer, not to claim, but to nurture. We would find young planets, worlds where the first simple organisms were beginning their long journey toward complexity. One cluster looked remarkably like Earth's local neighborhood. We did not force life to follow our path, Calith continued. Such things cannot be forced. Instead, we left gentle markers in the chemistry of these worlds. Proteins that might encourage certain evolutionary pathways. Amino acids arranged in patterns that could, given billions of years and countless chances, produce beings with biochemistry similar to our own. Ixtal, monitoring from outside the chamber, spoke through a communication device. That explains the genetic markers. They didn't create humanity directly. They created the conditions that made humanity possible. They moved mountains, seeded oceans, guided volcanic activity, all to create environments where specific types of life might eventually emerge. Most of our seeded worlds failed, Calith admitted, and the sadness in their voice was unmistakable. Life is unpredictable, wonderfully so. It takes paths we never imagined. Some worlds developed silicon-based organisms instead of carbon. Others evolved consciousness in ways completely alien to our understanding. We celebrated these differences, learned from them, protected them. Cities that floated in the sky, ships that moved between stars like birds between trees, art and music and science, all blending into a culture of breathtaking beauty. But success brought danger, Caliph said, and now their voice carried warning. In our exploration of deep space, in our reaching beyond known boundaries, we encountered something. A force, an entity, perhaps a natural phenomenon. We never truly understood what it was. It existed in the spaces between galaxies, in the vast empty regions where no stars shine. The holographic display showed something that made Sarah's skin crawl. It wasn't a clear image, more like a distortion in space itself. Darkness that moved with purpose, emptiness that somehow felt alive and hungry. It consumed energy, Caliph explained. Not just physical energy, but life force itself. Entire star systems would go dark when it passed through. Civilizations would simply cease to exist, leaving behind nothing but silent worlds and unanswered questions. The Great Silence. We have records of unexplained civilization collapses throughout galactic history. Could this be the cause? Defensive stations, weapons platforms, shields that could protect entire solar systems. We fought it as best we could. Our technology was advanced, our understanding of physics beyond what you currently possess. But it was not enough. The entity adapted to everything we tried. It learned from our defenses and overcame them. Our civilization was ending, but we refused to let our knowledge, our culture, our hopes die with us. So we created these vaults. Repositories of everything we were, everything we learned, everything we built. We designed our final works to respond only to those who carried our biological patterns, Caliph explained. Our evolutionary children, our descendants through the long pathway of time and chance. We knew that if life survived on our seeded worlds, if evolution followed the paths we encouraged, eventually beings might emerge who could access what we left behind. If you are seeing this, then you are one of those beings. Your world was seeded. Your evolution was gently guided by the markers we left. You are not our children in the direct sense, but you are our legacy. And we have left you gifts. Then it returns, hungry again. We calculated its cycle at approximately 2 million years. Perhaps it has already begun its approach. We designed these defensive stations with everything we learned from our failures. They can protect your civilizations, but only if someone with our biological markers activates and operates them. Early warning systems to detect the entity's approach, weapons that could harm it, shields that could resist it. We could not save ourselves, Caliph said, their voice growing faint as the recording neared its end. But perhaps we can save you. Use what we have left. Protect the life that has flourished in this galaxy. And know that across the vast darkness of time, we hoped for you. We believed in you. We trusted that life would find a way. Around her, the vault's treasures waited, technology, knowledge, weapons, and warnings from a civilization that had died hoping the future would survive. Professor Malthus entered the chamber, his expression grave. Doctor Chen, our deep space observation stations have detected something. Anomalous readings from beyond the galactic rim, matching the descriptions in the architect records. And humanity, the newest species in the galactic community, had just inherited the responsibility to face it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours. Representatives from every major civilization gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall on Central Station, a massive space structure that served as the political heart of the galaxy. Sarah watched the proceedings through a holographic display, still on the moon with the vault, unwilling to leave the source of knowledge they so desperately needed. Chancellor Vorin, a dignified Veridian who had led the council for 3 centuries, called the assembly to order. We face an unprecedented situation. His voice echoed through the chamber. The architect vaults are activating across the galaxy. Preliminary reports indicate 47 separate sites have responded to human presence. More are being discovered daily. Furthermore, Chancellor Vorin continued, our observation networks have detected the anomalous readings mentioned in the architect records. Something is approaching from intergalactic space. It matches the entity described in their warnings. Our scientists estimate it will reach the outer rim of our galaxy within 2 standard years. 2 years was barely enough time to make any decision, let alone prepare a defense. Ambassador Thex of the Krell Collective stood, his mechanical body gleaming under the assembly lights. We must discuss the obvious question. The architects left defensive technology, but it responds only to human activation. Humanity is the youngest species in this council. They achieved faster-than-light travel only 50 years ago. Are we truly prepared to entrust our survival to them? Humans are still learning our laws, our customs, our technologies. The defensive stations the architects left behind are weapons of immense power. What guarantees do we have that humanity will use them responsibly? Perhaps we should hear her assessment before making assumptions. She took a deep breath, remembering her training, remembering why she had become an archaeologist in the first place, to understand the past and learn from it. Honored representatives, she began, her voice steadier than she felt. I understand your concerns. Humanity is young, inexperienced, and we have much to learn. But I want to share something the architect Kalith said in their recording. They seeded hundreds of worlds, hoping that life would find its own path. Most of those worlds didn't produce beings like them. Life evolved in unexpected ways, and the architects celebrated that. Yes, humans carry the genetic markers needed to activate their technology, but that doesn't make us superior. It makes us compatible with a 2-million-year-old interface system, nothing more. What are you proposing, Dr. Chen? I propose joint operation. Humans interface with the stations, but command decisions are made by mixed-species teams. Full transparency, shared authority, collective responsibility. You would voluntarily limit human control over these weapons. The architects left them for whoever inherited their genetic patterns, yes, but they left them to protect all life, not to give one species dominance over others. Chen, have you discussed this proposal with Earth's government? Our own history is full of those mistakes. We'd rather make this decision together. The Krell Collective wishes to revise our position. If humanity is willing to accept joint command and oversight, we support activating the defensive network. Not everyone agreed. Some representatives argued for more time, more study, more guarantees, but a clear majority was forming. Chancellor Vorin called for a formal vote. All in favor of authorizing the activation of the Architect Defensive Network under Joint Galactic Command, with human operators working alongside multi-species oversight teams. Sarah felt relief flood through her, followed immediately by terror. They had permission to proceed, but now came the hard part, actually making it work. Dr. Chen, Chancellor Vorin said, you will coordinate the initial activation, select your team. We will provide whatever resources you need. The survival of the galaxy depends on our success. Professor Malthus found her there an hour later, staring at the holographic display of the defensive network. You did well, he said gently, settling beside her. Kalith would be proud. What if the interface is too complex, or my biology isn't quite right, or? Not because humans are perfect, but because you have something they valued, the ability to reach across differences and build bridges. It was 3 light-years away, orbiting a neutron star, waiting for someone to bring it to life. When do we start? She asked. Tomorrow, Malthus said. We have assembled a team of 20 specialists from 12 species. They are already traveling here to meet you. Together, you will activate the first station. If successful, we will expand the program across the galaxy. Just the survival of every living thing in the galaxy, depending on whether she could figure out how to work 2 million-year-old alien technology. "Professor," she said quietly, "thank you for believing in me. The architects left us that gift above all others. The hope that life continues, that civilizations grow, that someone will stand against the darkness when it returns. You are that hope made real, Dr. Chen. Now we must prove worthy of it." Through the viewport, she could see it hanging in space near the neutron star, a structure so massive it made their vessel look like a grain of sand next to a mountain. The station was beautiful in an alien way. Curved surfaces of the same color-shifting material as the vault, arranged in patterns that seemed both random and purposeful. Sections rotated slowly, generating artificial gravity through centrifugal force. Lights pulsed along its surface in rhythms that might have been system checks or might have been something else entirely. "Approach vector confirmed," announced Captain Jorik, a Krell pilot whose centuries of experience made him the natural choice to command their mission. "Dr. Chen, we will dock at the primary access point in 15 minutes." Venric reviewed technical specifications one more time, his 4 hands moving across multiple data pads simultaneously. Professor Malthus sat beside Sarah, his ancient eyes calm and reassuring. "Remember your training," he said softly. "The architects designed this system for intuitive operation. Trust your instincts." "Chen, all of us." She had spent the past 3 weeks studying every scrap of information from the vault, practicing with simulation programs, preparing as best she could. But simulations weren't real. This was. The team moved through the airlock in careful formation. The moment Sarah stepped onto the station, she felt it. That same warmth she had experienced at the vault, like the technology was greeting her, welcoming her home after an impossibly long absence. Lights blazed to life down the corridor. Holographic displays materialized, showing station status, system diagnostics, and information in the flowing architect script that Sarah had learned to read with Malthus's help. "Station is responding," Ixtal confirmed, her sensors sweeping the area. "Power generation is increasing. Life support systems are activating. It's coming alive." Around the walls, display screens showed the surrounding space, sensor readings, and tactical information. Sarah approached the interface slowly. According to the architect records, this was where the neural connection would form. She would need to place her hands on the crystal and allow the station systems to link with her nervous system. The process wasn't dangerous, but it would be intense. "Whenever you're ready," Captain Jorik said. The entire team watched, their various instruments recording every detail. Sarah reached out and touched the crystal. The universe exploded into her awareness. Suddenly she could feel the entire station as if it were her own body. Every sensor was an eye, every power conduit a vein, every computational system a thought. Information flooded into her consciousness. The neutron star's radiation patterns, the position of nearby asteroids, the gravitational currents of local space. It was overwhelming. Sarah gasped, nearly pulling away, but Professor Malthus's voice cut through the confusion. "Breathe, Dr. Chen. Focus. The interface will adapt to your processing capacity. Give it time." Gradually, the flood of information began to organize itself. Her human brain couldn't process raw data like this, but the architect technology compensated, translating everything into forms she could understand. Images, sounds, feelings, all combining to give her unprecedented awareness of the station and its surroundings. "It's working," she managed to say. "I can feel everything. The station is fully operational. All defensive systems are ready." She could sense them like distant lights in darkness. With a thought, she activated the connection protocols. One by one, the other stations came online. Humans stationed at each location were making the same neural connection she had made, bringing the architect's defensive network to life after 2 million years of silence. Sarah could feel them all, a web of protection spreading across the galaxy. Network synchronization at 40%, reported Ixtal. 60%, 80%, full synchronization achieved. Dr. Chen, you did it. The entire defensive network is operational. The entity the architects had warned about was still distant, but it was definitely there. A void in space that moved with purpose, slowly but inevitably heading toward populated systems. I can see it, Sarah said. The entity. It's real. Shields that could protect entire solar systems. Weapons that operated on principles current science barely understood. Communication arrays that could coordinate defensive efforts across impossible distances. Finally, exhausted, she withdrew from the neural interface. The connection faded gently, leaving her back in her own body, her own limited human senses. But she retained the knowledge, the understanding of how the systems worked. How do you feel? Malthus asked, steadying her as she swayed slightly. Tired, Sarah admitted, but hopeful. The architects gave us something incredible, not just weapons but a chance, a real chance to survive what destroyed them. Humans trained to interface with the stations, working alongside specialists from dozens of species. Sarah coordinated the effort, traveling from station to station, teaching others what she had learned. The original vault on Moon KX-447 transformed into a research center and training facility. Scientists from across the galaxy gathered there, studying the architect's knowledge, learning from their mistakes, preparing for the approaching threat. 1 year after the first activation, Sarah stood in the vault's main chamber with Professor Malthus. The holographic display showed the defensive network in full operation, a web of light protecting the galaxy's civilizations. The architects would be pleased, Malthus said. They left their legacy in good hands. They seeded worlds with the potential for life like theirs, hoping evolution would produce someone capable of using what they left behind. It was such a long shot, such an impossible hope. Proof that impossible hopes sometimes come true. Humanity had gone from newcomers to keyholders, not through conquest or superiority, but through cosmic chance and a willingness to share responsibility. The entity was still approaching. The danger was real. But for the first time in 2 million years, the galaxy had a defense prepared by those who understood the threat best. Sarah touched the wall of the vault, feeling the familiar warmth of the architect technology. We won't let you down, she whispered. We'll protect what you hope to preserve. Life, diversity, the future. And at the heart of that preparation stood humanity, the unexpected inheritors of an ancient promise, the living proof that hope could survive across the vast gulf of time, the bridge between what was and what would be. The architects were gone, but their legacy lived on. Not in stone or metal, but in the courage of those who chose to stand against the night together.